Hello, my name is Omar Mitchell, and today I'm going to take you on a journey through the deeply rooted issues of race, particularly black and white racial relationships, as I've experienced them personally and as shared by the generations before me. In this presentation, I will be discussing my personal experiences, those of my parents and grandparents' generations, and how all of this relates to something must be done about Prince Edward County by Kristen Green. This conversation is important because it sheds light on the enduring impact of the systemic racism on education and how the lived experiences of Black Americans have been shaped by racial dynamics over time. I'll tie in the stories shared with me by two remarkable women, Lena Ebanks Roach and Gretel Buchanan, who lived through the struggles of segregation and dealt with the challenges of racism, both at school and in their communities. Through these stories, I aim to connect past injustices to the present day realities we continue to face in education. Uh, to teachers, it extended into the broader culture as well. Skin bleaching, for instance, became a trend for some individuals who sought to appear whiter in the hopes of achieving greater social acceptance or success. In my community, I saw this firsthand. And while I didn't fully grasp the reason behind this at a young age, I understand now that it reflects a larger global culture in which lighter skin is often seen as a more desired or desirable and privileged. It's painful reality rooted in colonialism and centers of racial oppression that has shaped how many people, especially in former colonized countries, view race. When I moved to the United States and began my career in education, I quickly realized that racial dynamics played out much differently than I had seen in Jamaica. In the US, race is a central issue in every part of society, especially in education. The disparities were impossible to ignore. I witnessed black students, particularly those from underprivileged backgrounds, being held to lower academic expectations. Their schools were often underfunded, lacking resources, and faced with overcrowded classrooms. At the same time, white students in more affluent neighborhoods enjoyed a wealth of educational resources, after school programs, and enrichment activities that provided them with a significant advantage. It's also important to highlight the challenges faced by English language learners who are often overlooked in the US education system. These students, many of whom come from immigrant families, are often placed in situations where they lack proper support to thrive in an academic setting. I've seen firsthand how a lack of accommodation for these students leads to disengagement and frustration. As an educator, I've made it my mission to challenge these inequities. I believe that all students, regardless of race, socioeconomic status, or language ability, deserve access to same high quality education. In my classroom, I strive to create an inclusive environment where every student feels valued, supported, and empowered to succeed. I'm deeply aware of the need to express and to address systemic inequities and work to ensure that my students have the resources and engagement they need to excel. Now, I want to turn to the stories of two extraordinary women I had the privilege of interviewing: Lena Ebanks Roach and Gretel Ebanks. They On the other hand, Gretel Buchanan, 91 years of age, shared similar memories of attending an all black school and church in Stockbridge, Georgia. She told me that the struggles of integration were not only difficult but also traumatizing. When black students were forced into white schools, they were often met with hostility from white peers and teachers. The schools were not prepared for black students, and there were few resources or support systems in place to help them transition. Gretel's experience underscores the painful legacy of forced integration. While many black children had been receiving a quality education at black schools, they were now thrust into an environment that was unwelcoming and unprepared for them. One of the most striking points she made was how the history of black schools and the educators who fought to provide a quality education in the face of adversity had been erased over time. Black schools and their contributions have not received the recognition they deserve, and this ensures has further deepened the sense of marginalization felt by black communities. You see, both Lena and Gretel stories remind me of the resilience of black Americans in the face of systemic racism and the deep scars left by segregation. These stories also provide a necessary perspective on the impact of segregation and the trauma of forced integration, which is still felt in the education system today. Now, in Something Must Be Done About Prince Edward County, Kristen Green explores the devastating effects of the county's decision to close public schools rather than integrate them, leaving thousands of black children without an education for 5 years. This book echoes the stories I heard from Lena and Gretel. Their experiences of receiving subpar education in segregated schools and then being forced into hostile white majority environments show just how destructive segregation and integration were for all black students. The belief held by many white people at the time that segregation was somehow better for black people was so incredibly harmful and misguided. It created educational environments where black children were not given the same opportunities as their white counterparts, and their education was intentionally that belief wasn't just a matter of public policy. It was a live reality for people like Lena and Gretel, who suffered the consequences of a system that treated them as less than their white peers. Today, we still see the lingering effects of these systemic inequalities. The challenges faced by black students in the educational system today are deeply tied to the history of segregation and that we must confront. As an educator, I feel a deep responsibility to ensure that we don't repeat the mistakes of the past and that we work tirelessly to dismantle the systems of oppression that continue to impact the students of color. Now, looking back on these stories, both from the past and present, It is clear that the fight for racial equality, especially in education, is far from over. The stories of Lena and Greta are not just relics of history, they are powerful reminders of the ongoing struggle against systemic racism. The injustice that these women and so many others endured is still alive today in the educational disparities we see across the country. Something must be done about Prince Edward serves as a stark reminder that true educational equity is still a goal we have not fully achieved. As an educator, I am committed to doing my part in ensuring that every student, regardless of their race or background, has access to an education that values their potential and matures their growth. It's our job as a society to challenge the systems that keep marginalized communities from reaching their full potential. I want to thank you for listening. I hope these stories and reflections inspire you to think critically about the role of race in education, the importance of addressing these inequities, and the ways in which we can all contribute to a more just and equitable society.